you can hear me clearly, so we can, if you could put some thumbs up, so we can confirm the sound quality is satisfactory here. So I just want to welcome our audience to this session presented by Naseej, celebrating the International Museum Day 2024. And therefore, I'm extending warm wishes to the museum community in Saudi Arabia and across the Arab world. Okay, so, and now, so what we could do, just a quick background about Naseej as a Saudi-owned consultancy firm specialized in cultural heritage services and solutions. So we support strategic planning from management and content interpretation and technology, as well as visitor development. So that's just a quick background about what we do. And we aiming today from this discussion to cultivate knowledge-based community and heritage by changing the cultural spectrum, express gratitude. Actually, I just want to pass on a quick thank you to the whole team of Naseej, including Fatima, who helped us a lot. I think we move to the subject of this session. So today, as you know, in this ever-evolving landscape of education with the museum and innovation, the title of this session is the Digital Cognitive Learning in Museum Spaces. So the panel will explore the integration of technology within museum environment to enhance learning experiences for young audiences. And therefore, so I just want to, without further ado, I want to introduce our esteemed panelists in this session who have been supporting us from day one and our initiative. So thank you very much. And I just start first from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. We have Abeer Albahrani, a renowned figure in the region for her groundbreaking contribution to innovation education within museums with over 20 years of experience. Abeer brings a wealth of expertise in education, community engagement, and art and culture. Next, I want to, so we joining us from Abu Dhabi, UAE, Louise, Nunn, an audience engagement expert in museum practice with a career spanning over 25 years. Sarah has an excellent creative experience as an educator and program curator. She's the head of education at the Louvre, Abu Dhabi. And from the heart of Cairo, Egypt, we welcome the knowledgeable colleague, our friend Moataz ElMekawy, the director of education at the Children's Museum. Moataz has an intensive expertise in engaging strategies for young generations, including like born digital generation now, as we call them, or Generation Z. And despite the time difference and distance, I'm pleased to introduce to you our, from the tech hub of the world in Tokyo, Japan, our immersive technology expert, Mr. Ahmed Al-Abdulrahman. So I welcome you all. Thank you for accepting the invitation. And now I think the first thing we could do is in this discussion, before we proceed, is to have a little background or historical background about the meaning of cognitive learning or cognitive learning theory. So we could give some insight to share some insight with our audience. basically, we cognitive learning as a theory came with the pioneer psychologist Jean Piaget, the Swiss French psychologist, where it was challenging the behaviorism or the behavior learning theory, which focuses now as a cognitive learning theory, focuses on internal mental process, engaging, emphasizing the importance of perception, memory, and problem solving in learning. So that's just a quick, brief historical background about the theory. However, what we have noticed nowadays is like in the rise of the digital transformation and the boom of the Internet of Things, the digital cognitive learning in museums involve the utilization of technologies to facilitate the cognitive process, such as the critical thinking among visitors, incorporating interactive and digital tools, immersive experience in educational content. Museums now can create engaging learning environment that stimulate visitors and enhance the understanding and appreciation of it. So I would say before we move on to the questions, there are a few points that are highlighted before this session, which emphasize the internal mental process, such as perception, memory, and problem solving, because this is absolutely fascinating when I compare it to being, I mean, myself, like just take it for example, coming from the in the 90s when we were in the gaming industry. So there was like more focus on the behavior learning, which is more repetitive, structured, and that was quite the opposite with the cognitive learning. So I would love to know, like, and ask. Maybe I'll start with Abeer and ask about the audience engagement within the museum. So if we could explore if you could tell us about like the methods for how, if you could define the methods to enhance the audience engagement with the cognitive learning with your program, please.
Okay, let me first thank you for inviting me to be amongst the other expertise in that field, and I'm so thrilled and happy to join in and add some value to the session. Let's start with audience engagement. I think it is more than attracting an increase in number of visitors in the museum. Audience engagement is more of creating and developing meaningful connections and experiences that leaves an everlasting impact. So when you understand individual interests and individual backgrounds and what touches them most and attract them most, you're able to develop those experiences and learning opportunities where to bring them back and back again to the museum. And there are a lot of methods and styles that we can incorporate into designing audience engagement approaches. I believe that museums are playgrounds, but unique playgrounds. So play and gamification are one of the most fascinating and enjoyable approach for not only children, but also adults. They enjoy unleashing the child within them. They come to the museum through treasure hunts, through immersive games, through touch screens and interactive exhibition. You give them like a template where they go and search for some quizzes and decode some codes and so on. Another approach that is very, very close to my heart is storytelling. Storytelling is one of the best methods to connect with the emotions. And when you connect to emotion, you create a memorable event that probably impact them for the rest of their lives, and weaving that with their interest and and feelings, it's very impactful. And with the digital coming in and emerging very fast, probably it is the language of the generation. Maybe it's a foreign language to my generation. We're still learning it, but they master it very, very well. So when you put, we incorporate all of the digital tools into the experience of the museum, it makes it more enjoyable, more fun. It doesn't have the essence of you're learning only something, but you're enjoying while you're learning. So I think this is more of what does audience engagement means to me.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, thank you, Abeer. I totally agree. I think this method of cognitive learning combined with digital technologies does open the floor to be more kind of free spirit, with the way, like as you describe it, the playground where you just like let yourself free and explore and learn while you're like basically facing new challenges, instead of as opposed to the old way, when it was more restrained and there's like limitations and always falling into this repetitive mode of
Yeah, and
learning.
it's trained by, having in mind that it's going to be testing and assessment and scoring and passing and failing. No, you go in, you choose whatever you want to learn, whenever you want to learn, however, and it's all about what you really want.
Absolutely, and that will lead to the next question. I think we're gonna ask Sarah this question about basically the content development and interpretation, and also if you could give us like an insight, because considering your experience in that field, like if you could just give us a little description about like what you've been working on in the education department, and in terms of interpretation of public programming as well as digital learning, please.
Thank you. And thank you, Abeer, for also thanking the panel, because it's a real pleasure to be here today and to just sort of learn from each other. And I think there's so many similarities, the way that you were talking about audience engagement. And I agree totally that at Louvre Abu Dhabi, we've developed multiple entry points for the public to be able to engage with the collection, the architecture, the exhibition. And very much, as you were saying, Abeer, it's about gamification. We really have started to introduce location-based games, which are really focused on heads-up engagement. So you have your web app. I can share an example later, but it really encourages the young people to actually look closely at the artworks. And that's, again, also within our children's museum. The children's museum that we have at Louvre Abu Dhabi has a 2-year exhibition, the current one being Picturing the Cosmos. And it's all about exploring space through looking at real artworks, and that being the starting point for learning and engagement. So I think it's a mixture of gamification. It's a mixture of having digital tools such as podcasts and location-based games, young visitor guides, which are, sort of the low tech and the high tech, I think, is something we also provide, which also enables, again, multiple people to be able to access content and the experience of the museum in multiple different ways. And one of the programs, particularly within my team, is we've worked on providing a platform for the next generation to bring their digital ideas to the museum. So it's like an incubator, and they are the next generation. So the future thinking, the design thinking. This program is called University Take Over the Museum, but it's actually basically the youth coming into the museum, answering and responding to a challenge, and then interpreting through digital interventions that they then test out with our audiences and our public. And again, I'll show some examples later on, and it's fascinating to see that, as you say, we're learning. This generation, we're able to keep up and manage. And I can't speak for everybody, but I speak for myself. You know, I enjoy learning new technology. But in terms of future thinking and where AI, VR, and AR is going, it's really exciting to see the next generation designing these activations and interventions. So yeah, that's
Absolutely agreed. I think, yeah, it's just that's where we'll lead to the next question with Ahmed Abdulrahman. I think it's just as a tech expert in immersive technologies. I just would love to ask him about the technologies available now. We passed like this. Now we're talking about mixed tech as like combining the AR and the virtual reality as well, as we could see now with those Apple goggles, the Apple Vision, for example. And you know, it's always developing. As we know, the technology is used as a tool. At the end of the day, is a fine line between the content and the experience, and that's very interesting from a museum perspective. But I would love to ask you, Ahmed, about what sort of technology is available that can enhance the learning experience effectively inside a museum. What do you think about that?
So when it comes to immersive technologies, they've been here like for decades. We've had AR for 5, 10 years. We had VR, the first VR headsets in the 90s. It wasn't portable. It wasn't accessible to anyone. It would cost you an arm and a leg. Fast forward to 2006, it became a little bit more streamlined. There have been some VR headset available until a few years ago when the Quest 2 came out to the market. It was cheaper than an iPhone. It's simple as that. It doesn't need a powerful computer. That's for VR. So then they started adding more high definition camera, which introduced the mixed reality. The technology keeps evolving, but it's not just about the technology because the technology is already there. It's just how like affordable, how it's like how the normal user, the normal end user can access the technology, use the technology, and at the end of the day, the technology by itself is a paperweight without the experience that are developed for that experience. I'll give an example. There have been many VR headset companies that launched like a lot of VR headsets through the past years. All of them failed because they did not had enough content for the users to try. If the user is not there to try those experiences, that's how you can utilize the technology. At the end of the day, it's just another device, just another computer. It's just another portable computer. It's just how you use it. And this is how when it comes to the museums, is how we utilize those technologies, how we utilize the augmented reality, how we utilize the mixed reality, how we utilize the virtual reality. Which technology fits for every aspect or every small piece that we want to show. It all depends on base by base scenarios.
I agree. And that remind me, like, with all experiences I had as museum consultant when we just discuss with the client. Like sometimes we just sit on a project and saying, like, you see, everybody's excited about the technology they want to use in their education department, or sometimes they exhibit, and they just sometimes we skip the content itself, like trying to actually we just say, hey, hold on a second. No, we have to discuss, like having as Abeer mentioned, like the storytelling, the cohesive and building coherent narratives that could be employed later on with the technology, or specific technology that can match with that. So السؤال الآن أنتقل إلى سيد معتز، فقط بسؤال من خبرتك أستاذنا العزيز، هل يمكنك مشاركتنا بأمثلة حول التعلم المعرفي بالتكنولوجيا الرقمية في المتحف بمصر؟
مساء الخير جميعا.
مساء النور.
التكنولوجيا الرقمية احنا بدأنا فيها في مصر من التسعينات. يعني المتحف عندنا اتأسس سنة 1996. في الحقيقة كان أول تاتش سكرين يمكن في الشرق الأوسط تقريبا كانت موجودة عندنا في المتحف. كان سنة 96 ما كناش نسمع عن التاتش سكرين، أو كانت حاجة غير معتادة. كانت بالنسبة للأطفال بمثابة السحر، إن هو يلمس صورة فتتحول لفيديو أو تتحرك قدامه. فكان بمثابة اختراع أو حاجة مذهلة بالنسبة للأطفال. التكنولوجيا الرقمية طبعا احنا لمسنا تأثيرها على الأطفال من بداية عملنا. يمكن انا بشتغل في المتحف من 2002 بمثابه 22 سنه دلوقتي في المجال. فبالتالي تطور التكنولوجيا وتطور الأجيال قدرت يعني نعرف من خلاله التفكير، وبنتابع باستمرار. في 2008 طورنا العمل في المكان، لأن كان التكنولوجيا اللي كانت مستخدمة ما بقتش مواكبة للعقلية الحديثة أو التكنولوجيا اللي موجودة، فبدأنا نطور شوية في الجزئية دي. احنا بنعتمد في الشغل بتاعنا على استعمال الحواس وإثارة التفكير العقلي والتفكير النقدي، علشان يخلي الأطفال أو يخلي الزوار بتوعنا يستخدموا حواسهم في التعليم. طبعا زي ما حضراتكم عارفين أو معظم الناس عارفة إن في ذكاءات مختلفة وطرق مختلفة للتعلم. فاحنا بنحاول نثير الموضوع ده من خلال استخدام الادوات اللي موجوده عندنا في المتحف. يمكن المتحف معتمد على مجموعه عاليه من التكنولوجيا او يعني المعروضات اللي بتساهم في ان الاطفال تكتسب الخبره او تتعلم، لاننا قائمين بشكل اساسي على اثاره فكره التعلم الذاتي مش التلقين. فبالتالي احنا بنساعد الزوار عندنا من خلال المعروضات اللي موجوده ان هو يجرب يلمس يتحرك يثير الحواس بتاعته، بحيث يخوض تجربة خاصة بيه، ومن خلالها يقدر يستخرج الخبرة المناسبة الموضوعة مسبقا. بس احنا ما بنعلنش عن الموضوع ده، بس غالبا الخبرة اللي بياخدها الجمهور او بيخرج بيها الجمهور احنا بنكون مخططين لها من قبل ما هو يوصل. طبعا المتحف عندنا في بدايته او في بداية التطوير بتاعته اتعمل له خطة تعليمية، بمعنى ان كل معروضه من المعروضات اللي موجوده عندنا او بيدخلها او بيتعامل معاها الجمهور معمول لها خطه تعليميه، مخرجات تعليميه هتخرج بمجرد ما الجمهور يتعامل معاها، بس بالطريقه اللي بتناسب الجمهور. يعني انا ما بديش للجمهور طريقه محدده يستخرج بيها التجربه بتاعته او يستعمل بيها التجربه بتاعته او يخرج بالخبره دي، لكن في النهايه كل الطرق هتوصل للمخرج التعليمي اللي انا منتظره منه في النهايه. طبعا الادوات المستخدمه عندنا في المتحف، يمكن احنا من 2010 بعد التطوير والتجديد عندنا استخدمنا انواع مختلفه من التكنولوجيا، تاتش سكرين، هولوجرام، اكثر من نوع من التكنولوجيا اللي موجوده، وتم توظيفها بشكل اساسي، لان احنا بنعتبر التكنولوجيا عندنا وسيله وليست غايه، يعني وسيله للشكل التعليمي. يمكن احنا المتخصصين في التعليم شويه يعني من زمان بنغير على اولادنا من موضوع التكنولوجيا. يعني بنحس انها خدتهم مننا. كون الشكل التقليدي للتعليم شويه بيبقى واخد شكل مختلف عن التكنولوجيا. بنحاول لا، مش كل حاجه تكنولوجيا، بنحاول نبعد باولادنا شويه عن فكره التكنولوجيا، لدرجه ان احنا عملنا برامج تخلي الولاد يعني يستخدموا التكنولوجيا الاستخدام العادل او الاستخدام المظبوط اللي موضوع عليه الافكار نفسها. لكن في النهايه خليني يعني اثير نقطه كده، ان بعد 2019 وبعد كوفيد 19 وبعد الجائحه اللي حصلت دي، بقينا مجبرين على استخدام التكنولوجيا. بقت التكنولوجيا فرضت نفسها علينا في المتاحف بشكل اساسي، وحصل تحول تام في التفكير من الشكل اللي هو مكمل للموضوع بتاعنا، اللي بقى اعتماد اساسي في تقديم البرامج بتاعتنا وامكانيه الوصول للجمهور بتاعنا. لان خلاص الجمهور بالفتره من 2019 ل 2021 تاثر جدا باستخدام التكنولوجيا، وبقت المعرفه منها بشكل اكبر واوضح. فبالتالي كان لازم نواكب الفكره دي، فبدا التفكير من بعد 2019 و2021 بيتغير، ونبتدي البرامج والافكار اللي موضوعه في استخدام التكنولوجيا بقت تتغير علشان نقدر نواكب الحدث ونفضل ماشيين مستمرين مع الشكل الجديد. فيعني ده الجزء اللي بنتكلم فيه عن التكنولوجيا وعن توظيفها وعن طريقه استعمالها في المتحف عندنا.
ممتاز، شكرا على التعريف الدقيق سيد معتز. فعلا معلومات قيمة، وأنا لم أعرف أن الانتراكتيف سكرين بدأت في مصر. هذه معلومة جديدة، نشكرك جزيل الشكر. What comes to my thought sometimes, it's like when we discuss it always like digital cognitive learning, because it's a trend right now. Because sometimes when you have like a schedule or a program in the education department, like you have the whole agenda or that can match with a curriculum from for different schools, you don't want to fall into that trap of like repeating the same exhibits or the same programs for the audience. So I would love to ask Abeer, like, what sort of solutions do you suggest in terms of the significance of innovative and creative approach in learning?
About curriculums at schools and how to make it relatable?
Yes, and as well as the role of innovation in those programs for the audience.
Let me say first why we believe in creative learning. Because creative learning is an approach to education that encourages not only students but learners in general to be creative, critical thinking, problem solvers, and they can explain themselves in multiple of ways and innovative ways. Those are set of skills that probably the traditional way of learning might not focuses on. It's more about memorization and of facts and information. So we have to be very creative in developing very innovative ways that highlights those skills to be developed within the learners, because they're very important, not only for the current present time, but also for the future, for multiple of reasons. Number one, we live in a rapid technological advancement. Things happen so fast, and we can't even cope with the changes. So we need those set of skills to we harness the best of the technology to work effectively for us. Number two, work and career in the current and present not probably will exist in the future. So maybe they get automated. What can we do? In what way can we develop those opportunities to develop those skills and needed for the individuals, so they can be more problem solvers and solvers and critical thinkings. Another thing, we are facing global challenges from climate change and environment degradation. We have social issues. If I don't incorporate those skills in the individuals, they won't be able to, they will fail from the first challenge. So that's why we play as educators, creative learners, developers, and educators, not only in museums, but in different organizations and cultural institutions and science centers, how to create an opportunity to make it effective in developing those skills: collaboration, discussion, sharing interest, or sharing your opinion without fear if it's right or wrong, proposing solution that might be right or wrong, teamwork, cultural exchange, cultural experience and change experiences. And that's why creative learning is very essential and important. So I'll give you an example. When you allow a child that comes in with his parents to be the leader of the whole journey in a museum because he knows how to use the application, and he teaches his father and mother, you touch the screen, this button and that button. No, Dad, don't press this button because you're gonna, ruin the whole application. And we start from that zone and then move on to the zone. It's give him the leadership, sense and skill and so on. And then you give him the confidence, and he knows better than the one who was born like 20 years older than he is. So I think there is methodologies of developing creative learning opportunities. There's no doubt, but also not putting the educators in a box and saying that's the only steps that you follow to create a creative learning opportunity.
Oh, awesome. I totally agree with you. And I think there's definitely a necessity to have like a proper methodology of work that, it's adaptable, because it depends on the audience. Are we targeting, for example, the users online or the visitors on site? Because there's a golden ratio. The way how I see it is like there's a golden ratio how to make that perfect cycle of like pre-visitation, during the visitation, and past the visitation. This is quite interesting, because these digital tools, we could enhance it in a way that, like, before the visitation, you have like sets of triggers that brings the visitors to the site, and then when they're interacting or within the museum, they have another experience that will expand after their visitation. So I think
I agree. It's a non-stop process. It's not solid. It's not graved on stones. You keep on developing it, amending it, and putting a lot of improvement in it. So, better results occurs at the end of experience. It's not like a curriculum and a syllabus at school. That's number one,
Yes.
number two, number three, and that's the outcome.
Yes.
Yeah. And this is very, very, it's very nice for an educator, but it's overwhelming as well, because, you have multiple ways, and, there's a process that you have to go through. You propose the idea, develop the lesson plan, do the dry run, might fail, because when you do it in a focus group of what you think they are the right people, and then when you do it for the right people, the outcome's totally different. So
definitely, that's true. That would lead to the next question with Sarah. It's like, I would love to know about the impact of digital learning and the potential of when you are applying like immersive and interactive digital tools in your public programs. So if you could share.
What's the impact? Is that the question?
Yes, correct. Yeah, about the impact of the cognitive learning. From your experience, if there's like some examples you could show us about,
Yeah, I mean, there's various examples of the impact, because I think what the panel has been talking about is really key, is important, is the balance, because we have access to information all the time, and for young people to be able to discern between fact and fiction, I think of those critical and creative thinking skills that we need to support them with. So in terms of, because there can be, I've seen somebody's written about how do we balance between parents saying they've got too much screen time, and then we're encouraging to engage with technology at the museum. How do we balance that with actually having human connection and collaborative interaction and engagement with each other? So, for example, at Louvre Abu Dhabi, we have this program called the Creative Interpreters, and it's a similar version to the university one, where we give teachers an opportunity to bring their students to the museum, and they interpret. They always start with the artwork as the inspiration, and then they come using performance. It could be performance, music, storytelling. But before they get to that point, they've gone on a journey of researching the artwork. They've gone on a journey to watch the videos around the installation of the artwork, for example. So they have use technology as a research tool to then perhaps even create their own stop-go animation. We've done a program called Art in Motion, where we worked with we had an exhibition on abstraction and calligraphy, and part of the challenge was, how can you make artworks move? And so we put them with an artist, and then they did a lot of stop-go animation. So it's always about finding a balance between engaging with technology and then working collaboratively, as Abeer said, being able to problem solve and be solution focused in their engagement, as opposed to constantly being glued to to a screen that they become down a rabbit hole, for example, and that this becomes the focus, as opposed to how can I apply the information that I've learned or the new experience that I've discovered through playing this game. Or, for example, as I said, I can show you later, if you like, inside this, we have the children's museum is called Picturing the Cosmos. So they enter in. Would you like to see it?
Yeah, go ahead. Please feel free to share with us. Yeah, thank you.
Share with my screen. This is where, yes, here we go. Let me know when you can see.
Yes, yeah, I do.
Yeah. Okay. So actually just sort of going, so this is examples of what I'm talking about, art in motion, providing children with opportunities to have interaction and engagement, setting them challenges to help them to use technology to find information, but then be able to create their own content. And we did a lot of this during COVID. We're a very young museum. When COVID hit, we were only 2 years old. So we had to still keep building our community and connecting them to the collection. So again, a lot of this is working with artworks and then them having application, finding solutions. We also had, we created these masterclasses online for adults or youth, you know, really focusing in on the skills and talent and the creative process of young Emirati artists going into their studio spaces. So again, balancing how we're using technology.
أهلا بكم في متحفنا وفي الموسم الثاني من بودكاست مغامرات في المتحف، حيث أروي لكم قصصاً جديدة خيالية عن تنين ضخم من الصين، وعن أداة فلكية تسمى الأسطرلاب، وعن مغامرات أخرى شيقة مستوحاة من تحف وأعمال فنية من متحف اللوفر أبو ظبي.
ياه، الجو جميل والسماء صافية. هذا هو الوقت الأنسب للإبحار والصيد.
So again, this is the location-based game I was talking about, but even just the adventures at the museum, working with Emirati storytellers to create stories that then record as a podcast. So again, it's linking home to the museum and then museum to the home through being able to enable families to come together and listen to these adventures and then come back to the museum to engage. This is the incredible Picturing the Cosmos Children's Museum. So again, they start by observing real artworks and using gamification to solve problems and puzzles. Then they go into the second floor, which is the space camp, and again, bringing science and art together, looking at materiality, before then they go into an outdoor space, again, life on Mars, doing technology but through active play. So it's always about finding a balance between technology and like creativity. And this is the university takeover. So again, this is again showing, like, oh, sorry, I want to move it to the next one. The giving the youth the opportunity to come into the museum and feel that the space is an incubator for them to test their technology. So, for example, in the last takeover that we just had at the beginning of this year, we really saw a huge influx in university students wanting to understand how can we use VR to deepen an understanding and connection with an artwork. You know, we had, you can see here, the girls, they were giving plants a voice, so giving sensors, placing sensors upon plants, and then using the vibrations to create code to then create a symbol of the flowers, which link to the Iznik dishes. So there's always a connection back to the artwork. So it's just, I think, a real opportunity to not always feel like we have to provide the highest level of technology for students and visitors, but also that they too can come to the museum and bring their creativity and ideas too, so that we create this sort of dialogue that exists between them. So thank you for allowing me to share some of these, but I think, again, it's the aspiration and inspiration of you know, how they're using AI to create. So students created, in this picture, the foliage, they were creating artworks inspired by the children, what they saw in the collection. Then the university students merged it with artworks in the Louvre Abu Dhabi collection to create something new. I mean, you know, this is their thinking. It's like I would never come up with that, but this is what they wanted to it's always about pushing to that next level of creativity. And I think sometimes if we give the platform to that next generation and we guide them through training and working with our expertise within the museum, we see lots of innovation. I think for us, the next stage is to how can we connect these students and the youth to the people in tech who can help them to evolve their ideas forward to the next stage. So.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing the presentation. You know, it's insightful, and I think that will lead to the next question. Definitely, I'll move on to Ahmed, because when we're talking about this balance, like for the time being, like between the content, interpretive content that we have, with immersive tools available. So how can we have this perfect equation? Is there a perfect equation between both, so that we could? What do you think?
So I've traveled to museums across the world, from North America to Europe to Saudi to the Far East. There are two types of museums so far that I've seen. Either highly technically advanced, or your traditional museum where the technology is you play a video, you have a touch screen that you can interact with, but yes, it is interactive, but it's not fully immersive. For example, just in Tokyo a few days ago, I visited the Team Labs exhibition. It's called the Borderless exhibition, where one of the art pieces, you walk in a crystal maze, just thousands of crystal lights, and you walk through it, and you can hold your phone and you can flick some graphic animations on the light, and it will interact with you. And there were some other exhibition art pieces where if you go to it at certain time, you come back to it 5 minutes later, it's a completely different atmosphere. The whole art piece changes with time, with how the guest interacts with it, and that's how you make it more immersive. You don't sometimes making it immersive doesn't need that you go super fancy with AR technology or a VR headset. You can do it with projection mapping. It's just projectors on a wall, and you can just, it's about the content. It's not about the hardware. As I mentioned before, the hardware is nothing without the content that you use it for. Your iPhone, if you delete all the applications from it, it's just an old Nokia phone. It can call and receive text messages, and that's it. So it's all about the content and the applications that you have. So for the museums, the goal now is to trying to utilize those technologies to create a story. I always say it's always about the storytelling. As Miss Abeer mentioned, it's trying to create a storytelling experience. Storytelling, sometimes it can be like you can use the term storytelling for a game, for a movie, but it's also for the user journey of the museum goer. It's the user experience, how they go, like the moment they go into the museum, how they interact with different objects. You can utilize different technologies to see the pieces in the museum from just different aspects. Sometimes you have a vase that is 10,000 years old. You cannot get close to it without using like a microscope or so with an AR application, you can just go through it, dismantle it, see the small little pieces in it, see the small etches on the on that vase, and you can utilize that technology to see more of the museum.
Totally agree. And actually, I have this experience where I've seen and I witnessed the museum that invested over like 40% of their content exhibited in using technologies like tools on those projectors. At the time, it was like 4K projectors. And it cost like a lot of money for the budget of the museum. But unfortunately, now we're talking like currently we have 10K, 8K. So, all that technology is just gonna go down the drain. And it's pretty
There's a big
interesting
but.
to have a vision with what you're gonna use, because you definitely don't want to spend so much money and effort on this technology while you I think it's definitely, as Sarah mentioned, it's the balance you're creating there. Sayyid Moataz,
Allow me to add one point.
yes, sure,
Uh,
go ahead.
It's finding the balance of not jumping to the new technology every time. Like as you
Agree.
mentioned, with 4K projectors and 8K and 10K projectors, the only way you can tell between 4K and 8K is if you come less than an inch from the screen.
Yeah.
So the human eye cannot discern the difference between 4K and 8K.
Yeah, that's true. That's so true. Yeah. سيدي معتز، من فضلك إذا حاولت تعطينا يعني تقييم حالي وعام ليس فقط على صعيد المتحف في القاهرة، لكن تقييمك الشخصي يعني من ناحية التوازن بين التعلم المعرفي والتكنولوجيا الحديثة.
هو التعلم التكنولوجي يعني زي ما قلت احنا بقينا في مؤخرا بقى فارض نفسه علينا، بس احنا بنحاول نعمل التوازن بين الاثنين، التعلم المعرفي والتعلم التكنولوجي. يمكن احنا علشان في مصر عندنا يعني متاحف كتير وعندنا آثار كتير، فالتعلم المعرفي منتشر أكتر. يمكن لما بندخل جولات في المتاحف الأثرية أو المتاحف الفنية بنستخدم التعلم المعرفي أكتر علشان نقدر نوصل معلومات تاريخية، معلومات تراثية، معلومات حتى لو حبينا نغير الفكرة نفسها ونتكلم عن تاريخ الفن أو شكل الحياة في الوقت ده، الحياة اليومية. كل ده بنساعد في إننا نستخدم التعلم المعرفي. التوازن بين الاثنين، بين التعلم المعرفي بقى والتعلم التكنولوجي، يعني ده بيحتاج شوية خبرات في فكرة إنتاج التجربة نفسها التعلمية. يعني علشان نعمل التوازن ده لازم نبقى عارفين القدرات اللي موجودة عندنا للتكنولوجيا اللي هنقدر نستخدمها وهنستخدمها ازاي، وهنقدر نوظفها بشكل مميز في التعلم اللي احنا هنقدمه. التعلم المعرفي يعني بيكون اسهل شوية بالنسبة لمعظم الناس، ان هو بيعتمد بشكل مباشر على خبرات بتتقدم، حوار، يعني أنشطة وممارسات حسية أو استخدامات حسية بتطلع من خلالها التجربة التعليمية اللي بتحصل. لكن التعلم التكنولوجي طبعا بيحتاج ان يبقى معاك وسيط من المتخصصين في التكنولوجيا زي الباشمهندس احمد، بيقدر يفيدنا اذا كان التجربه التعليميه او التجربه التكنولوجيه دي هتقدر تتوظف في الجانب التعليمي بالشكل المناسب ولا لا. غير كده احنا لازم نوازن كمان في استخدامات التكنولوجيا من ناحية ما بين مميزات التكنولوجيا وأضرار التكنولوجيا، لأن خلينا نتكلم على جانب آخر للتكنولوجيا، والجانب اللي دايما إحنا يعني متخصصين في التعليم بنحاول نقنن شوية فكرة استخدام التكنولوجيا بشكل كبير، لأن إحنا عارفين إن ليها جزء سلبي في التعلم. كان عندنا تجارب من في برامج باستخدام الفي ار والاي ار في 2019. طبعا تحولت الفكره دي لان الكوفيد خلانا ما نقدرش نستخدم حاجات كتير ورا بعض، وما نقدرش نستخدم نظاره بعد الثانيه، فكان ده عائق بالنسبه لنا في اننا نكمل في نفس الفكره. فاحيانا يعني التوازن اللي انت بتحاول تعمله بتحصل مشكله تانية تغير الفكره، فبدانا نفكر بشكل تاني ان احنا نغير فكره النظاره ونستخدم ماسكات بتستخدم تحت النظاره علشان يبقى استخدام شخصي. فالفكره نفسها في انك تقدر تعمل توازن في استخدام التكنولوجيا بالشكل المناسب، وانك توظف التكنولوجيا على حسب الامكانيات اللي موجوده عندنا. يمكن التعلم المعرفي شويه المخرجات بتاعته بتكون اقل شويه من التعلم التكنولوجي، لان دلوقتي التعلم التكنولوجي هو مسيطر شويه على عقول الاطفال وعلى عقول الكبار حتى. فبالتالي بنلجأ اكتر في اننا نوازن بين الاثنين، بين التعلم المعرفي والتعلم التكنولوجي، علشان التجربة التعليمية توصل بشكل متكامل. يمكن في معظم المتاحف في مصر التكنولوجيا استخدامها مش كتير قوي، لان زي ما قلت احنا عندنا يعني كم من الآثار وكم من المعروضات اللي ممكن تستخدم او تبقى وراها قصص. احنا طبعا بنقول المعروضة الواحدة ممكن تروي يعني 1000 قصة من وراها، فبالتالي احنا عندنا خلفية كويسة نقدر نستخدمها في التعلم المعرفي لو حاولنا نوظف المعروضة بأكتر من شكل وبأكتر من طريقة وبأكتر من قصة وأكتر من رواية ممكن تطلع من وراها بشكل التعلم ده. طبعا يعني خلينا نقول برضو ان استخدام التكنولوجيا او يعني توظيف التكنولوجيا في التعليم بيحتاج ميزانية. يعني علشان نقدر نوظف التكنولوجيا لازم يبقى عندنا خطة مستقبلية لاستكمال الصيانة واستكمال التطوير في التكنولوجيا علشان نقدر نواكب. مش مجرد ان انا هوظف التكنولوجيا وابدا اشتغل بيها هكون بقدم تجربة ناجحة لمدة معينة، وبعد كده بضطر بعد كده ان انا لازم اطور التجربة وادخل في مجال حديث واقدر اشوف الجديد في الجوانب التكنولوجية علشان اقدر اواكب التجارب التعليمية الحديثة. فطبعا التوازن ده بنقدر يعني بشكل صعب شويه ان احنا نكون التوازن بالطريقه دي.
صحيح صحيح، أتفق معك وشكرا على الإضافة خصوصا في هذه النقطة هذه. أستاذة عبير, I would love to just like move on now to the last bit because we're running out of time. We're just gonna before quickly we wrap up this session, I would love to ask maybe all panelists here about the future of museum education. So given the vast amount of data that we process nowadays, so in the ongoing digital transformation in terms of like tools used, how do you foresee the museum education practice evolving in the future?
Can I start?
Yes, sure. Go ahead.
Well, I think that will provide us with both opportunities and challenges. Opportunities that we are museums, we have our research, methodologies and approaches in a center. So we have an access to a vast number on amount of knowledge and information and data. So we have a big role in reshaping the educational landscape for the future. The challenge that we probably may face is we might drown in that information and data, and you don't know where to start from. And taking that data and information and trying to create opportunities and experiences that really meaningful and it really impacts the individual. This is a very big challenge. So we should be very careful to understand the information, validate the information, processes, analyze it, and then put it in a right context to make it meaningful for the individual. And this is really overwhelming. But I think with the advancement of the digital and technology, we have a very high potential of using the AI and the digitalization tools to make learning more personalized for the individuals, So probably anyone will come in will find the right style and method for his way to be able to learn and keep on learning and become a lifelong learner. So I think future is not certain. So you will always face challenges, but there are a lot of other opportunities happening.
Yeah, definitely. I've noticed that in the gaming industry, again, it's more about like this customizable experience. It's just like a tailor-made experience that you just get. It's fascinating. So just quickly run to Sarah. What are your thoughts about the future?
Well, I think in addition to everything that's already been said, I think that museums are able to use technology to provide context for people. So to being able to reconstruct perhaps old artifacts and being able to go back and create empathy, sort of places for empathy for people to be able to step into that past, to know the present and the future. I think there's multiple ways we can help to facilitate greater sort of community cohesion, and then also be using technology, as we were sort of saying, to really build this informal learning platform so that people can, both whether they have to go through formal education. I think education is going to change completely, and that the museums will be those hubs, those learning hubs, those places for real connection and understanding, because information is at our fingertips. It's how we apply it and how we use it. So I think for me, we can use technology in museums to provide platforms for empathy and understanding of different cultures and communities, and also to provide context and history for the present, and also looking into that to the future, in addition to what's already been said. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, Ahmed, any additional thoughts about the future of immersive?
I have 3 points to mention. So the technology is here to stay. It's not going anywhere unless we have a nuclear apocalypse. That's it. So we will have to learn how to adapt to it, basically, and know how to utilize it. The second part is never look for the quick wins. Look at the AAA games. Some of them takes years of development until we see the next AAA game. It's something that is developed within 4 months. Yes, it might be working. It have a great story behind it, but it still lacks a lot in terms of the studios that been doing this for decades, and have a huge team of people working on it. It takes time to develop proper content with amazing storyline. The last thing is, I don't remember the numbers from this research from the top of my head, but there have been a research that measured the knowledge retention between traditional learning with just a book against like learning with an iPad, or learning through a video, or learning through an immersive tool like a VR headset or an AR headset. Learning through an immersive tool have the highest number of knowledge retention compared to any other method in that research and case, like the case study that's been done. If we want to teach the youth or the older generation, we need to immerse them within the area, the field that they want to learn it, so they can retain those information for longer periods.
No, absolutely. سيد معتز، أي إضافة من حول توقعاتك لمستقبل التعلم والتكنولوجيا التي ممكن أن تغير أساليب التعلم يعني المعرفي؟
يعني كما ذكرت من قبل، التكنولوجيا غيرت فعلا في خلال الثلاث سنوات الأخيرة كثير في مجال التعليم في المتاحف. يمكن مستقبل التعليم أكثر هيكون متعلق بالتكنولوجيا في الفترة القادمة، لأن احنا خلاص بدأنا اعتماد كامل دلوقتي أو اعتماد كبير على التكنولوجيا في استخداماتنا. فبالتالي تأثير التكنولوجيا هيكون يعني أكثر في الفترة القادمة. بنتمنى طبعا ان الشكل التكنولوجيا لما بنيجي نحط حاجه لاستخدامها داخل المتاحف نعتمد على اخصائيين التعليم داخل المتاحف، لان هم اكثر درايه بالجوانب التعليميه او المخرجات التعليميه اللي ممكن تستخدم. تأثير التكنولوجيا بشكل عام في الفترة القادمة أعتقد يعني الواقع المعزز أو الفي آر والاي آر عملوا يعني إضافات جميلة في التعليم وفي المتاحف بشكل عام. يمكن في فترات معينة بنقدر نستخدم الهولوجرام مثلا مكان قطع بيتم ترميمها، مكان قطع اتنقلت من مكانها أو ما بقتش موجودة. يعني خلينا اقول عن تجربه كده في الشكل التعلم. في 2018 كان في المتحف الاسلامي في القاهره حصل تفجير، وبعض القطع من المتحف تم تدميرها تماما. في 2018 بالمشاركه مع مجموعه من الزملاء يعني عملنا معرض قعدنا فيه كل القطع اللي تم تدميرها بشكل تكنولوجي. عملنا هيلوجرام للقطع اللي اتدمرت تماما وخرجت من العرض وما بقتش موجوده، وعملنا لها هيلوجرام بقى معروض جوه المتحف في المكان اللي اتعرضت فيه، ورجعناها تاني للعرض بشكل كامل، وعملنا عليها مجموعة من البرامج وعملنا عليها مجموعة من الأدوات التعليمية علشان نقدر نرجعها للجمهور تاني. فمن 2014 ل 2018 فرق 4 سنين، يمكن في الناس اللي كان عندها 6 سنين بقى عندها 10 سنين، فبقت أكثر دراية ومعرفة، فممكن تعرف أكتر عن المعروضة دي وتقدر تتعلم أكتر منها. فبالتالي توظيف التكنولوجيا في الجانب ده كان مهم جدا بالنسبه لنا. في اكتر من حاجه طبعا، بس علشان الوقت يعني بحاول اختصر الموضوع. بس استخدام التكنولوجيا فعلا هام جدا وضروري في الفتره القادمه، ويعني سهل لنا حاجات كتير. يمكن الاي اي دلوقتي بقى يعمل الشغل اللي كنا بنقعد نعمله في اسابيع وفي شهور مثلا، ممكن يخلصه في ايام او في ساعات بالاي اي باستخدام برامج معينه. طبعا كل الحاجات دي بتضيف لنا في شغلنا وبتضيف لنا في تفكيرنا بعد كده، وده طبعا بيفتح الباب لان الاخصائيين التعليم في المتاحف او المعلمين او الاديوكيتور في المتاحف لازم يكونوا اكثر درايه بالتكنولوجيا، ويكونوا على ارتباط كامل بكل التطوير اللي بيحصل في الفتره القادمه، علشان يقدروا لما بيحطوا برنامج او بيعملوا خطه تعليميه يقدروا يوظفوا كل الادوات التكنولوجيه اللي موجوده الحديثه بشكل مناسب، علشان يقدر يواكب عقلية المتعلمين أو الزوار اللي موجودين عندنا. شكرا. I don't hear you بالسمع. Your mic.
Yes, sorry. Very insightful indeed. So before we close, I just want to jump in and read some. We got a couple of questions here. One from Shaza. You'll probably cover the challenges is due cause on trend. I'm noticing with some parents now is limiting kids access to screen time in digital gaming and learning at home, given the problems they are causing. So how do the panelists see museums and science centers striking the right balance So I think we did cover that, but if you want someone quickly, just give us like in one sentence a quick reminder what it is. So we done maybe Sarah or Abeer. Okay, yeah, sure.
I think parents, the most controllable emotion within their kids is fear. They fear that anything they would do, jump and play and put their hands in the mud, it's dangerous and it's dirty and it might get you sick, or even technology. I always advise parents, as Sarah says, balance. Do not stop them from using the only language they understand and enjoy, and do not give them the whole time to play only on digital, because there are a lot of experiences, physical experiences. They can go outside and play tennis and play football and learn from it, communicate and act. Don't forget the human senses when you communicate and play. But also do not stop them from doing their chores and their homeworks and the other things, because they have to watch something, or they want to continue watching the YouTube or watching their TikToks and so on. So balance is the right answer for me.
Awesome. I'll just jump to the next question. Which technology from your experience that get most engagement by youth? The VR, AR, interactive touch screen? And how often do museums change or update such technology internally? Would you like Sarah to answer this question?
But I think it links to what you were saying, Ahmed, that people really in museums, we have at Louvre Abu Dhabi, we have a white canvas, which is projections on the walls of the museum connected to the exhibition. They're in place now, and with the new technology coming and evolving, but you have to financially look at it as an investment. So once the investment was made, it will take years before those can be replaced. So I think it's about just being mindful of the speed of which technology evolves, but also giving it within the context of the storytelling of the narrative. Does it fit with what you're trying to do as a museum? I think that's answered the question, to be honest. Maybe you're more placed to answer this. So.
Well, that's actually the third question is directly to Ahmed from anonymous attendee. So we have Ahmed mentioned the VR, AR, and AI as important technologies reshaping the museum experience. Any thoughts about Web3 and blockchain technology? Interesting. So what do you think?
So as I mentioned, the VR, the AR, the AI, the Web3, the blockchain, they are technologies. They are just tools. It is just tools to showcase something, to utilize, to deliver something. We should not depend on that technology, because that technology can be replaced today or tomorrow and become something new, and it can evolve into something new. I'll give an example. Mixed reality today. The definition that we know of mixed reality, 5 years ago, it had a different meaning. Mixed reality was a completely different technology. Immersive audio, 50 years ago, immersive audio was stereo. Audio is coming from two sides. At that time, it was just a mono sound. When it evolved, it became stereo. It evolved now, and you needed 5 or 7 headset speakers to have audio coming from everywhere. It evolved again. Now you have the AirPod Pros, where you're just wearing 2 small headphones and you can hear the voice, someone speaking from behind you, and you think that there's someone standing behind you. So they are just the tools to deliver something. It's not about you should not depend on technology. Yes, they can be useful in delivering a specific thing, but we should not focus on those technologies. We shouldn't have a tunnel vision on a specific technology just because it's the new trend or the hot topic. I've seen so many institutes jump on the VR and AR because it's the hot topic, spending money on experiences that eventually was used for a few months and then got shelved. No one used it ever again. So it is always useful to remember which like when you look at the technology, think about it just a tool to deliver what you want to do, not just because you want to use a tool.
Interesting. Yeah, well, it's a long subject for sure. And I think on that note, I would like to thank our amazing speakers. So thank you so much. And I want to salute all the audience who participated in this session. Hoping to see you for another interesting panel discussion and about different subject, of course, in museum practice. So thank you all, and I wish you a happy International Museum Day. So thank you, everybody. Awesome. Thank you. Cheers. Bye.